Good morning. I'm Alan Joines, Mayor of Winston-Salem, and certainly we welcome you here this morning, not for a joyous occasion by any means, but for a very serious situation. I'm joined this morning by a number of elected officials, city, county, and state officials. Let me introduce them to you right now, and then later on, if any of them wants to make a comment, certainly they're welcome to. But our chairman of our county commissioners, Dave Plyler, Representative Donnie Lambeth, Representative Derwin Montgomery, Senator Paul Lowe, our council member Jeff McIntosh, council member Denise Adams, Representative Evelyn Terry, County Commissioner Fleming Elamine, City Councilman Robert Clark, City Council Member Annette Scipio, and City Council Member John Larson. So we're well represented this morning. As mayor of the city of Winston-Salem, I felt like it was important that we come together as a body to stand in solidarity relative to this terrible tragedy that's occurred in our city, and to say that to our citizens that we ask you to trust the process. We'll say that our Assistant Police Chief Miles is with us this morning, and Chief Thompson is on her way. You know, we as a community, unfortunately, have experienced some similar situations in the recent past, and I think you will agree that the process worked in those cases. However, I know that our community, members of our community, have seen situations maybe in a little bit more distant past that the process didn't work as well as we would have liked it. However, I'm feeling good about where we're at with that. I think it's extremely important this morning also to say that we as elected officials stand in solidarity in support of the family and friends of Julius Solomon Jr. Our community has lost a very fine young man, certainly. I've spoken to his wife, Mrs. Sampson, as has other members up here as well, and expressed on behalf of the entire city the condolences of the city of Winston-Salem and its citizens. Now, I will say that there's a lot of speculation swirling around regarding this particular tragedy. However, I must point out that this is an ongoing investigation by our police department and by the district attorney's office. And as such, we as elected officials cannot comment or speculate on things ourselves that would in any way prejudice this investigation. However, we as elected officials from the city, the county, and the state want to say to the citizens this morning that we can assure you that there will be a full, public and transparent investigation of all aspects of this terrible crime. I want to thank the citizens of Winston-Salem for their calmness during this entire process and for allowing the process to play itself out. I believe in the long run we will see justice served and that the city of Winston-Salem will heal and be together on this. I would now at this time certainly invite any member of elected official who would like to say a word to please feel free to. Mr. Plyler.
I would, first of all, I'd like to thank Alan Joines for the leadership that he has provided. This is a process that is very seldom seen. Many people coming together from this county and this city to look for what I think is a good criminal justice system. And all Alan is saying is a very simple thing. Let's let the process take place. Let's let it be thorough. Let it be transparent. And I hope that the citizens of Forsyth County see some of the folks up here, Donnie Lambeth from Raleigh and Bob Clark and Jeff McIntosh. I'm not naming everybody because you've already met them, but the bottom line is you have county, you have city, you have state representatives. We're all here, we're united, we're together, and we believe in the process. And I will tell you now, from my perspective, if I was the family of Mr. Sampson, I'm sorry, if long story short, if I was that family, I would be very concerned about his death, and I think this is a positive step to help them and help our community find some resolution to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anyone else? Representative Lambeth.
I also like to thank the mayor and the city council and the law enforcement here. You know, we love this city. I've been a resident of this city for many years. I've been a resident of this county my entire life. Worked here, and I love this community, and I think we need to continue to work together. We have so many things going good for us, so many positive things in this community. We cannot tolerate this type of behavior in this community. We have to figure out what the underlying reasons for it. I'm here because I do love this community, and I support law enforcement, and I support this council and the work they're doing. And I want to do what I can. Our entire delegation from Forsyth County stands ready to help and support. We want to do what we can to make sure that this is a thorough investigation and that the citizens here understand what is in fact going on and what can we do to try to change this culture that's taken over many lives in our community, whether it's challenges with our mental health system or others. We want to be there to support our citizens here in Forsyth County. So I appreciate again the mayor, appreciate the elected officials being here, and know that we're ready to support you in any way we can.
Thank you, Representative Lambeth. Representative Terry.
Thank you very much. I'd like to first thank you, Mayor, for having the insight to bring us together this way.
I think it might have been your idea, so.
Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't take credit for anything because I love my community. First, let me say my sincerest condolences to the family of Juice. He represents the finest among what we know African-American men in our communities do. So it's a tragic loss, and I am sure that those persons standing behind me will ensure that what has been spoken here by our mayor will be taken very seriously, and we will look forward to a future that brings us more sensible ways to solve our differences in community and in the culture. So I simply want to say, let this one voice be the voice of Forsyth County to bring common sense, gun safety, and the kind of support system that creates the closing of the wealth gap so that people do not feel marginalized and that their anger goes out of control and they do horrendous things that we've seen happening. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Representative Terry. Representative Montgomery.
First and foremost, again, we send condolences to the family. Anytime that someone loses their life, people grieve and mourn. But under the circumstances in which this life was lost, we grieve even deeper because there are a lot of unanswered questions for the community. And I think it's important for us to name the fact that the community at large, in particular our African-American community, has a right to have questions today. They have a right to be concerned about what is going on and the right to question the process. But in the fact of doing that, I would also ask that individuals look at the recent history of this community, in particular looking at the recent history of our police department, our city, and their commitment to ensuring that every rock is turned over. And what I would say to the community as a whole is that what is being asked is not to sit back and not ask questions. What is being asked is to allow the process to move forward. And what I've discovered is that the way that you ensure that the process unfolds the proper way is that you continue to ask the questions, continue to keep the pressure on our departments here, the police department, as well as our district attorney's office, because with that pressure, it leaves the checks and balances that are necessary to ensure that we give the public what is necessary, as well as ensuring that when this is at the end of the day, we all want to ensure that justice comes to this family. And the only way that we can ensure that is if this process moves forward. That's what I believe this entire community wants. And the only way that we can get justice is that we ensure that everything that is possible to come out of this investigation happens. And so I've discovered, working with these great folks in the city of Winston-Salem, that there are some folks that we can trust in this process. And I look forward to working with them and continuing to ask the questions that are necessary.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Paulo.
Okay. Certainly to this family, our hearts go out to them. This community has lost a great citizen. Children have lost a father. A wife has lost a husband. And we want to be able to trust the process and let this process move forward. I think that there are some great people that are working in this process, and I feel very confident that justice will be served. I will not try to regurgitate everything that everyone has said, but I am in support of the process and in support of the people that are actively working. I hope that the right questions will continue to be asked, but I trust the people that are serving in important positions to get this work done so that justice will be served. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to introduce Councilmember Dan Bessie, who has joined us as well as our Police Chief, Katrina Thompson. Any questions from members of the media? Or Chief, would you like to say a word? Oh, okay. Any questions? Yes, sir, Paul.
So we've heard a lot about unanswered questions, but I haven't heard anyone specifically address what you'd like to see answered as this process unfolds. And if I could get someone who mentioned, perhaps Mr. Montgomery or Senator Lowe, if you want to just tell us, for those who don't know, what kind of information are we as a community looking for?
Any of y'all want to comment on that?
To the extent that I can, I want to be careful in terms of what I say and what I don't say, but you all have already reported on what the community is asking in terms of the concerns that we see online, in terms of the issues that people are questioning around the racial, potential racial underlining that's there. And so we just want to make sure that the process has the ability to understand what was true motivation, and that's what will allow our police department and the district attorney's office to be able to investigate, so that if that is the case, they can properly prosecute in the way that they need to. And so I'll leave it at that.
I think our chief has made very clear the department's position on that, Paul, as well as looking at all aspects of it and answering every question that has been raised from the public. Yes, ma'am.
You said trust the process. Is there a timeline for this process?
You know, Chief can speak much better than I can, but I think that the answer is it takes as long as it takes. And that's, I'm sorry to be necessarily, but issues come up, it takes a while to pursue those, so I would say just be calm. In some of these previous cases, it's taken months in some cases to get the investigation thoroughly done, but it works. I would just ask our citizens to be patient.
And Mayor, can you point out another case you said in recent history here in Winston-Salem, there were similar cases where you trusted the process and ended up working out? Can you name one case?
Sure, absolutely. There was an unfortunate situation where a young man was killed during an arrest by one of our police officers, Mr. Page, and it took a while for that investigation to be completed, and we as a community asked that the community, we as a city asked the community to be patient. Along with our ministers' conference, we stood together. It took a while. It took about 6 months, if I remember correctly, Chief, and then the body cam evidence was released, and it showed, I think, a situation where the police officer acted in an appropriate manner. So that was one example of that.
So how will you ensure that this investigation is transparent and public?
Michael, I think that's a good question. I think all of us standing here today, these are the...
Beyond that, what other steps?
Well, certainly I personally can assure the citizens that I will be expecting the city manager and the police chief and the police department to provide to us as a city council the details of this investigation when they're able to. And then that will give us a chance to ask any questions we may have. Of course, members of the elected bodies here are receiving questions from the public, and I think it's our duty to make sure those questions are also being answered, Michael.
What kind of questions are you receiving?
I really don't want to get into those specifically, Michael, because of the ongoing nature of the investigation.
And a lot of our viewers just have the question, and the term keeps coming up, is this going to be classified as a hate crime? Is that what you're investigating? Is that what you're seeking to do?
As I said, I think the police department's going to look at all aspects of this case. And as I mentioned, there's been speculation on a lot of different issues, and that's why we want to say let the process work through.
And other than press conferences, is there any other plans to have that interaction with the community as this investigation continues to just really reassure them that everything's being done?
That's a good question. We have talked about perhaps some community interaction situations, but again, we don't want to interfere with the investigation or taint it in any way. So I think we want to let that process work, and then we will come back and probably have some opportunities for citizens to more directly ask questions and to get feedback from them. That's a good question.
There was
Yes.
a letter published recently from a former police officer that addressed or that brought up some of the concerns that a lot of the community members are bringing up. Are those some of the questions that you guys are bringing with the investigation to?
Absolutely. As I said, our police department is looking at every aspect of this case, including any speculation that has occurred. Paul?
It's an unfortunate fact of life that homicides occur. And as you know, this is not the first one of the year, and probably won't be the last one. This is the second press conference related to this situation, this tragic situation. And if you just kind of put into words why there's so much scrutiny on this case, or why there's so much attention being paid to this. Why is this so much more of a public situation than other homicides that have happened?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have had other homicides in our city. I think this particular case brings to bear a lot of public scrutiny on it because of the public nature of it occurring, the fact that it involved a white individual and a black victim. So I think it gives us perhaps more impetus to make sure that all questions are being answered and it's being as public and transparent as possible, Paul. Thank you. Thank you all for coming this morning, and other members will be up here available if you want to do specific questions. Thank you all. Don?